Hello, guys. Welcome, welcome. Once again, it's very nice. It's very good to have you in the class. Thank you so much for coming and for staying here. Okay. Uh, just a second. Okay, perfect. So, guys, I'm going to record a class. So I'm going to record a class in case you need recording. Okay. So once again, it's very nice to have in the class, guys. We have been working on different grammatical tenses. We were working on verb be at the very beginning. Then we worked on parts of speech. Remember that we were studying parts of speech. We were explaining the different parts of speech. We were talking about nouns. We were talking about adverbs. We were talking about adjectives, the different categories and the different types of adjectives, adverbs, verbs that we have when we talk about parts of the speech. Basically, we have been talking about different grammatical tenses. We have been explaining simple present tense. We have been explaining what simple present tense is, how to use simple present tense. We have been explaining the difference between simple present tense and present continuous tense. We have been explaining the most important grammatical aspects when it comes to simple present tense and present continuous tense, similarities and differences between them. We have been talking about simple past tense as well. I remember that we were studying simple past. We were working on how to create sentences, negative sentences, positive sentences, and questions using simple past tense. I remember that in the previous class we were studying how to pronounce the ending ed at the end of regular verbs in the past tense. Okay, we were explaining how to pronounce the final ed in the case of regular verbs when they are in the past tense. Okay, we were also explaining the difference between regular and irregular verbs. Okay, so those are basically the topics that we have been covering, that we have been developing in the previous classes, and that is basically what we have for today's class. Okay, we're going to have a summary. We're going to have a summary about the tenses that we have been explaining. We are going to have a summary about different grammatical tenses, but we're going to include some other topics at the end as well. Okay, at the end as well. So very good. So guys, same thing. I'm going to share the screen because I have a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, please pay attention to what I'm going to explain. Okay, I'm going to try to be as clear as possible, and I'm going to try to be as specific as possible with the explanation. In case you have any questions or something, you can let me know. Okay, because I'm always very willing to help you with any questions or inconveniences that you have. Okay, very good. And we have several things. Okay, many things to do today. That's the reason why we have to use the time wisely. Okay, very good. So this is basically a presentation that we have to cover. This presentation is about week 11. Okay, simple present tense, present progressive tense, simple past tense, and past progressive tense. So those are like the most important topics that we have for this week. Okay, those are the most important topics that we have for week 11. Simple present, present progressive, simple past, and past progressive tense. Okay, again, we talked about simple present tense. We explained what simple present tense is. We explained present progressive. We talked about the differences and similarities between simple present and present progressive. If you remember, if you remember, this is important. If you remember, just give me a second, guys, please. Okay, if you remember, we were saying and we were explaining that simple present tense is used for actions at the present, but those actions are not necessarily happening right now in the simple present tense. Okay, actions at the present, but those actions are not necessarily happening at this moment. When we talked about present progressive tense, we said that in present progressive we use actions that happen at the present, and those actions are happening right now at this moment, at the moment that I say the sentence. I remember that we were also explaining some other functions of present progressive. We were saying that we can use present progressive for close future actions. Remember, we can use present progressive for close future actions. For example, I am calling my sister in the afternoon. I am traveling to Japan the next month, or I am giving a class at 5 p.m., or I am taking some notes at the end of the class, or I am having a meeting. I am having a meeting tomorrow in the morning. Okay, so we can use present progressive for close future actions. Remember that when we use simple past tense, because we talked about simple past tense in the previous class, when we use simple past tense, when we explain simple past tense, we say that simple past is used for actions in the past, obviously, right? We use simple past tense for actions in the past, guys, but actions in the past that happened at a very specific moment. Okay, actions in the past that happened at a very specific moment. For example, yesterday I went to the mall. Okay, or in 2021 I traveled to China, for example. Or I visited in the past. I visited my cousin's house the last weekend. Okay, so in the simple past, we talk about actions that happened in the past, but actions that happened at a very specific moment in the past. Okay, when we explain simple past, we also explained, like the rules, the pronunciation rules for the ending ed in the case of regular verbs in the past tense. And we can say that the newest topic, let's say the new incorporation. Okay, the new incorporation is past progressive. So I need you to pay attention to the whole presentation, but I need you to pay specific attention to past progressive tense, because past progressive tense is not the same as simple past tense. Okay, simple past and past progressive use actions in the past, but different actions in the past. Okay, so I'm going to explain like the differences and everything, and let's get it started. Okay, so read. Perfect. Okay, guys, simple present tense, very quickly. Okay, simple present tense. Okay, how can we create positive sentences, negative sentences, and questions using simple past tense? Okay, the simple past tense, I'm sorry, simple present, not simple past tense, but simple present tense. Okay, how can we create positive sentences, negative sentences, and questions using simple present? Okay, remember, simple present for actions that happen at the present, but those actions are not necessarily happening right now. If it is a positive sentence, we use the subject, the verb, and the complement. For example, she works very hard. She participates in the activities. We work at nights. If it is a negative sentence, we use the subject at the very beginning of the sentence. We use don't for I, for you, for they, for we. I don't, they don't, we don't, you don't. But we can use doesn't for he, for she, and for it. For example, she doesn't, it doesn't, he doesn't. The verb in the complement. Okay, if it is a short question, we use do or does at the beginning of the question, right? The subject, the verb, and the complement. For example, do I participate in the activities? Does she take classes in the morning? Does the teacher give the instructions? Do they drive in the mornings? If it is an information question, we use the interrogative pronoun at the beginning of the question, like what, where, when, how, which. We use do or does, the subject, the verb, and the complement. For example, why do they take classes? Okay, where does he study English? Where does she work on Wednesdays? Or why does the teacher explain the rules? Or when do this course start? We have some examples of simple present tense sentences and questions. They work there, she works there. They do not or don't work there. She does not or doesn't work there. Do they work there? Does she work there? Where do they work? Where does she work? Okay, that's basically simple present tense. It's not new. This is just for you to remember how simple present tense is used. Remember that present progressive tense is used, guys, for actions at the present, but actions that are happening right now, at this moment, at this specific moment. Okay, actions that are happening at this moment, at the moment that I say the sentence. Okay, or close future actions. For example, I am speaking right now. You are listening to the teacher. You are listening to the professor. Okay, you are taking a class. I am giving a class. I am looking at the computer. I am using the computer. Okay, you are using your computers as well. Actions that are happening right now. I am calling my mother tomorrow. Close future action. She is working the next Sunday. Close future action. I am eating after this class. Close future action. Positive sentence, the subject. Remember that we use verb be. Are or is the verb ing in the complement. Okay. Negative sentences, the subject. Verb be, net, verb ing in the complement. Okay, yes or no question, verb be at the very beginning of the question, the subject, verb ing in the complement. Information question, the interrogative pronoun, verb be, subject, verb ing in the complement. Okay, some examples of positive sentences using simple present progressive tense. She is working right now. We are participating at this moment. The teacher is explaining the rules. Negative sentences. I am not walking right now. She is not eating pizza. Okay, the teacher is not explaining the instructions or the rules at this moment. Yes or no question? Am I working right now? Are they participating in the class? Is she explaining the rules? Information questions. Why are they taking the class? Why is she driving that car? When are we taking the course? Or what are you doing at this moment? Okay, more examples of present progressive sentences. They are working there. She is working there. They are not working there. She is not working there. Are they working there? Is he working there? Where are they working? Where is he working? Okay. The first two examples are positive sentences. The next two examples are negative sentences. These two examples are examples of short questions. And at the end, we have two examples of information questions using present progressive tense. Okay, guys, remember this. Remember this. This is important. Okay, remember that this is the book Fundamentals of English Grammar. Okay, you have this book on the platform. If you go to the platform, I don't remember the week. I think it is like week 4, something like that. You can find this book. Remember, the book's name is Fundamentals of English Grammar. We are not gonna use it too much, right? But we can use some pages, right? But when we use pages, I tell you, okay, I tell you. So remember that if you go to the book, if you go to this book, to the book Fundamentals of English Grammar, and if you go to page 17, remember that in page 17, you find non-action verbs. What are non-action verbs, Professor? Guys, non-action verbs are verbs that are not used with ing. We don't use them in the progressive form. They are not commonly used with ing. We don't say believing. We don't say possessing. We don't say wanting. We don't say needing, right? These verbs are not used in progressive tenses. We can use them in the present, we can use them in the past, we can use them in the future, but not in progressive tenses. Okay? We don't say sounding or understanding because they are non-action verbs. Okay? Let's read these examples. I know, um, I know Mrs. Chen. Incorrect. Okay, incorrect. I am knowing, right? Because we don't use know with ing. I am hungry. I want a sandwich. Incorrect. I am wanting. We cannot say wanting because want. Want is an example of a non-action verb. Okay, this book belongs to Michael. Incorrect. Incorrect. This book is belonging. So we don't say belonging. We don't use ing in this case because belong is an example of a non-action verbs. So just for you to know, this is part of what? This is part of, let's say, guys, when we study non-action verbs, we normally study non-action verbs when we study present progressive, right? So I don't want to say that non-action verbs is part of present progressive, but we normally study non-action verbs when we are studying present progressive tense because it is important to understand which are the verbs that are not commonly used with ing, right? Because if you don't know them, when you study present progressive, maybe you can use them with ing. That's the reason why it is important to pay attention to non-action verbs when we study present progressive, because it is important to understand which are those verbs that are not commonly used with ing. So guys, so far so good, I think, right? This is a summary. This is a summary because we were studying these in previous classes. This is just for you to remember, okay? Clear so far?
Yes.
Okay, let's continue. Okay, okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So, simple past tense. Okay, guys, we studied simple past tense in the previous class. Okay, simple past tense. What is simple past tense? Chicos, acá es importante no solo conocer la estructura gramatical, me interesa saber o me interesa que ustedes sepan no solo cómo formular que las oraciones y las preguntas, sino cuándo utilizar el tiempo. ¿Por qué presente progresivo y por qué no presente simple si ambos son presentes? Ya se ha hablado de eso. ¿Ok? Ahorita que vamos a adentrarnos un poquito más en pasado progresivo, la idea, aparte de estudiar toda la estructura gramatical, es que ustedes entiendan por qué pasado simple y no pasado progresivo. Right? I mean, not only the grammatical structure, but also the functions. Okay, the functions of the grammar tenses that we study in class. Simple past tense. When do we use simple past tense? Okay, we use simple past tense, guys, for actions, in the past, right? But what type of actions? What type of actions in the past? Okay, this is important. Simple past tense. We use simple past tense, sorry, for actions in the past, with actions that happened at a very specific moment in the past. Actions that happened at a very specific moment in the past. For example, I went to the park the next Sunday. It happened on Sunday. Okay, it happened at a very specific moment in the past. I took a course several years ago. I took a course several years ago. I took the course at a very specific moment in the past. Or I visited I visited different countries in 2019. right? I visited many countries or several countries in in 2019. So the action happened at a very specific moment in the past. Okay, so that is basically the main function of simple past tense. But remember, if I want to create a positive sentence, I use the subject. Then we have to write the verb and then the complement. Guys, in this part, in simple past tense, when we study this grammar tense, we have to remember that we have regular and irregular verbs. Okay, I explained the difference. You need to know the difference between regular and irregular verbs. If you don't remember, just in case, remember that regular verbs, regular verbs, they have they have ed at the end when we write them in the past. Okay, regular verbs have ed at the end of the verb when we write them in the past. What are some examples? What are some examples of regular verbs? Call in the present, called in the past tense. That's an example of a regular verb. Explain in the present, explained in the past. Regular verb. Okay. Touch in the present, touched in the past tense. Regular verb. Move in the present, moved in the past. Regular verb. Last example. Last example. Participate in the present, participated in the past. All of them are examples of regular verbs, because if you pay attention to the past tense of those verbs, they have ed, right? It is very simple. It is very simple. Okay, when we studied regular verbs, we explained the pronunciation of the ending ed, right? We explained the pronunciation of the ending ed when we use regular verbs in the past tense. We explained that the final ed, the ending ed, has three different ways to be pronounced, and we explain the differences and everything. Okay, but anyways, we also have irregular verbs. Okay, irregular verbs. What are irregular verbs? Okay, when we use irregular verbs, we need to understand that irregular verbs have a specific writing. They have a specific spelling for the past tense. Okay, we don't write ed at the end of the verb when we use irregular verbs. Okay, so if I have an irregular verb, if I want to write the verb, that specific verb in the past tense, I need to know the past tense of that verb. So it is not just writing ed. For example, examples of irregular verbs: it is in the present, ate is in the past tense, see is in the present, saw is in the past tense. Okay, here is in the present, heard is in the past tense. Go is in the present, went is in the past tense. Okay. Keep is in the present, kept is in the past tense. Okay, these are irregular verbs because if I want to write them in the past tense, I need to know the writing. I need to know the spelling. I need to know the word for that specific verb in the past. Okay, it is not just writing ed at the end of the verb. Okay, so anyways, negative sentences in simple past tense. Subject did not, verb and the complement. Remember that we can use the contraction didn't, right? We talked about the contraction didn't. Didn't is exactly the same as did not. The verb and the complement. But remember that we change the verb. We conjugate the verb. Let's say we write the verb in the past tense only when the sentence is positive. Okay, only when the sentence is positive, we write the verb in the past form, in the past tense form, okay? If the sentence is negative, or if it is a question, we use the verb in the present form, even if it is simple past tense. Okay, I said that. Only when the sentence is positive, we write the verb in the past. Okay, when we use negative sentences or when we use questions, we don't write the verb in the past. Okay, we use the verb in the simple form, in the present form, in the standard form. Okay, we don't change, we don't modify it. Okay, if it is a yes or no question, it is important to remember that we used it at the very beginning of the question. The subject, the verb, and the complement. Okay, if it is an information question, we use the interrogative pronoun at the beginning of the question. For example, what, where, when, how, which. We use did, the auxiliary, the typical auxiliary that we use in questions, the subject, the verb, and the complement. Remember, negative sentences and questions have the verb in the simple form, in the present form. We don't change it, we don't modify it. Examples of positive sentences in simple past tense. They worked. Their regular verb. Look at the writing. This verb has ed at the end, right? Because this is a regular verb. She worked there. Exactly the same. Positive sentences, simple past tense, regular verb. They didn't work there. She didn't work there. These are negative sentences in simple past tense. Pay attention to the verb. Work, work. I didn't write the verb in the past tense because these are negative sentences. Did they work there? Did she work there? Okay, these two examples are examples of yes or no questions in simple past tense. Pay attention to the auxiliary. I'm using did at the beginning of the question. And if you pay attention to the verb, I am still using the verb in the simple form. I didn't write the verb in the past. Okay, I'm using the verb in the simple form, in the present form. Where did it work? Where did she work? Okay, these two examples are examples of information questions. Okay, they are information questions in simple past tense. Once again, I am using the auxiliary did, right? And if you pay attention to the verb, I'm using the verb in the simple form, right? I'm using the verb in the simple present tense form, in the standard form. So as you can see, guys, only in the positive sentences, only in the first two examples, I wrote the verb in the past form, okay? Okay, clear, guys, so far?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, guys, we have this part. We have this part, but we can do it together, okay? Because we don't have too much time, and we have many topics. Not many topics, but many slides to cover. Okay, that's the reason why we are going to work on this exercise, and we're going to complete these blanks that we have here. This practice is about irregular verbs. Okay, so we're going to practice a little bit irregular verbs. Okay, you can find this specific exercise in the book Fundamentals of English Grammar. I'm gonna open the book right now, and I'm gonna be like fill in the blanks, and you can be like following me. Okay, so you can pay attention to what I'm doing, so you can check the answers at the same time simultaneously. Very good. So this is basically the book, okay? And again, we are going to go to exercise number 11, right? Exercise number 11. Second. Just a second, guys. Excellent. Ready. So again, I'm going to share the screen, and I'm gonna be working on this practice, guys, because I cannot give you too much time. So we can work together, okay? We can work simultaneously. Pay attention to what I'm going to write. Try to check the answers. Okay, again, this practice is about irregular verbs in the past tense, okay? Because the idea is to practice a little bit these verbs, okay? So number one, it says Alex hurt his finger, okay? Alex hurt his finger when he was fixing his dinner last night. He accidentally cut is an irregular verb, and cut is a past tense of cut. Cut, cut, cut. The writing is the same in the present, in the past, and even in the past participle. Number two, I don't have any money in my pocket. I spent it all yesterday. Spent is the past tense of spend. Spend is in the present. Spent is in the past tense. This is another example of an irregular verb. I am broke, or I am flat broke. And didn't throw her old shoes away. She kept, or she kept them. Kept is the past tense of keep. Right? Keep is in the present, kept is in the past tense, irregular verb. She kept them because they were comfortable. Okay. Number four, an interesting article in the newspaper yesterday, past tense of read. Read. Read is the past tense of read. The writing is the same. The spelling is the same in the present, in the past, but the pronunciation is different. Okay, in the present we say read. In the past tense we say read. So this is the past tense of read, but the pronunciation is read. I read an interesting article in the newspaper. Number five, Jack lost his pocket knife at the park yesterday. This morning, he back to the park to look for it. Finally, he it in the grass. He was glad to have it back. Okay, so we have number five. Jack lost his pocket knife at the park yesterday. This morning, he went. Okay, went is a past tense of go. Go is in the present. Went is in the past. This is an irregular verb. He went back to the park to look for it. He finally found. Okay, found it. Found it in the grass. He was glad to have it back. So found is a past tense of find. Find is in the present and found is in the past. Number six, Mr. Litovchenko was very happy, but a little bit nervous. Okay, when he held his baby in his arms for the first time. Held is the past tense of hold. Hold is in the present and held is in the past tense. Okay, Jennifer's parents, when they visited her, she introduced me to them. Okay, met. Met is the past tense of meet. Meet is in the present and met is in the past. Number eight, is Natasha still angry with you? No, me for what I did. And she's speaking to me again. Forgave. Okay, forgave is the past tense of forgive. Forgive is in the present and forgave is in the past. Number nine, I dropped my favorite vase. It fell on the floor and broke into 100 pieces. Broke is the past tense of break. Break is in the present and broke is in the past tense. Okay. Number 10, when I went shopping yesterday, I some light bulbs and a cooking pot. Okay. We can use pot, which is the past tense of buy. Buy is in the present and bought is in the past. Number 11, the soldiers, the battle, through the night and into the morning. We can use fought, which is the past tense of fight, right? So fight is in the present, and fought, and fought is in the past tense, okay? Number 12, I used to have a camera, but I it when I needed the money, okay? We can use sold. Sold is the past tense of sell. Sell in the present, sold in the past. Number 13, Jane didn't want anyone to find her diary, so she hid in a shoe box in her closet. We can use hid. which is the past tense of hide. Hide is in the present, hid is in the past. Number 14, I didn't want anyone else to see the note, so I it into tiny pieces and them in the waste basket, okay? So in this case, we can use tore, which is the past tense of tear, right? And through, which is the past tense of throw, right? So simple present of tore, tear. Simple present of throw. Number 15, the children. Pictures of themselves in our class yesterday. So we can say true. True is the past tense of throw. Throw is in the present, but true is in the past. Number 16, I have a cold. Yesterday, terrible, but I am feeling better today. In this case, we can use felt, which is the past tense of feel. Feel in the present, felt in the past tense. Number 17, last night, a strange noise in the house around 2 a.m., so I up to investigate. So here we can use heard, which is the past tense of hear. Hear in the present, heard in the past tense. And in this one, we can use woke. Okay, woke. Woke, which is the past tense of wake. Number 18, Sam ran the fastest. So he, the race. We can use one, which is the past tense of win. Win in the present, won in the past. My dog isn't very friendly. Yesterday, okay, my neighbor. This case, we can use bit, right? We can use bit, which is the past tense of bite. Bit my neighbor's leg. Luckily, my dog is very old and doesn't have sharp teeth, so she didn't hurt my neighbor. Number 20, Steve on the campfire to make it burn. Okay, in this case, we can use blue, which is a past tense of blow. Blow in the present, blue in the past. 21, when I went fishing yesterday, I fish right away. But the fish was too small to keep. I carefully turned it to the water. It quickly away. Okay. So in this case, we can use the past tense of catch. So caught is the past tense of catch, right? And right in this one, we can use swim, which is the past tense of swim. So caught is the past tense of catch, and swim is the past tense of swim. Number 22, Amanda, a lie. I didn't believe her because the truth. Amanda said, we can say said, we can say told too. So said is the past tense of say in the present, said in the past. The pronunciation is said. Okay. Told is the past tense of tell. We can use tell in the present, told in the past tense. And in this case, we can use the past tense of know, which is new. Know in the present and new in the past. So guys, these are just some examples of irregular verbs in the past tense. Guys, what is the idea of this part? The idea of practicing irregular verbs is that you can see that we don't write, okay, we don't write TD in the past. We need to know the past tense of irregular verbs, okay, because there is a writing for the present, but there is another writing for the past tense and even for the past participle form. Okay. Okay, let's continue, guys. Okay, guys, pay attention here. Pay attention here, guys. This is very important. Okay, this is very important. Okay, I'm gonna use a book. I'm going to use a book. Let me check the page. Because I have it on the presentation, but I want to use a book for this specific part. Just a second. Okay, perfect. So guys, I explained this in the previous class, but in case you forgot it, this is your opportunity to remember. Okay, chicos, pay attention in this part. This is very necessary, okay? Guys, and I normally consider this as something very important for tests, right? For tests. So, pronunciation, okay? Pronunciation of ed endings. This is for what? This is for regular verbs in the past tense. Of course, this is not for irregular verbs, okay? This is for regular verbs in the past tense. And I am going to explain how to pronounce the ending ed, okay? How to pronounce this ending when we have regular verbs in the past tense. Okay, first of all, guys, what is the first step? What is the first thing that we have to take into consideration when I want to pronounce this ending? Guys, the first step, very important, okay? The first step is to identify the final sound. The final sound, the final sound of the base form, okay? Not the final sound of the word, the final sound of the base form, okay? The final sound of the word when the word is in the simple form. Okay, the final sound of the word when the word is in the simple form, right? So I'm going to try to identify the final sound in these specific cases. Okay, pay attention here. Okay, talk. Final sound, letter K. Stop. Final sound, letter P. His final sound, double S. Watch. Final sound, CH. Wash. Final sound, SH. Call. Final sound, letter L. Rain, final sound, letter N. Live, final sound, letter V. Rub, final sound, letter P. Stay, final sound, letter Y. Wait, final sound, letter T. Need, final sound, letter T. Now, um, so final ed is pronounced after voiceless sounds. What are voiceless sounds? Voiceless sounds are sounds that don't have any vibration. They don't vibrate. When you pronounce them, they don't have any vibration. They are called voiceless sounds. So final ed is pronounced after voiceless sounds. What are some examples of voiceless sounds? Okay, what are some examples of voiceless sounds? Okay, these are some examples happen here. Well, anyways, these are some examples of voiceless sounds because they don't vibrate. Sorry. They don't vibrate. They don't have any vibration. And if you pay attention to these examples, to these words that we have here, these final sounds that you have in these examples don't vibrate. They don't have any vibration. Talk. Final sound, letter K. It doesn't have any vibration. Pronunciation of the final ed. Pronunciation of this verb in the past tense, talked, 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 talked. Second example, stop. Final sound, letter P. Okay, letter P is the final sound. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't have any vibration. Okay, pronunciation of the final ed. Pronunciation of the verb in the past tense, stopped, 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 stopped. Okay, his final sound, letter S. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't have any vibration. Pronunciation of the ending. Pronunciation of this verb in the past tense, hissed, 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 hissed. Watch, final sound, ch. T, 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 t. It doesn't have any vibration. Pronunciation of the ending, t, t, t. Pronunciation of the verb in the past tense, watched, 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 watched. Next example, wash, final sound, letter S and H. He doesn't vibrate. He doesn't have any vibration. Pronunciation of the ending, t, t, t. Pronunciation of the verb in the past tense, washed, 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 washed. Rule number 2, okay, final ed is pronounced d after voiced sounds. Okay, pronunciation ed is pronounced d after voiced sounds. What are some examples of voice sounds? These are some examples of voice sounds. L, n, b, l, n, b, l, n, b. One more time. L, n, b. They vibrate. They have vibration. When we pronounce, they vibrate. So final ed is pronounced d after voiced sounds or after sounds that have vibration. If you pay attention to these examples, okay, final sounds vibrate. They have vibration. For example, call, final sound, letter L. It vibrates. Pronunciation of the ending, d. Pronunciation of the verb in the past tense, called, called, called. Rain, n. Final sound, letter N, it vibrates. Pronunciation of the ending, d. Pronunciation of the verb in the past tense, rained, rained, rained. Live, final sound, letter V. It vibrates. It has vibration. Pronunciation of the ending, d. Pronunciation of the verb in the past tense, lived, lived, lived. Next example, rub, b. Letter B is the final sound, and it vibrates. B. It has vibration. Okay. Pronunciation of the ending, d. Pronunciation of this verb in the past tense, rubbed, rubbed, rubbed. Stay, final sound, letter Y. It vibrates. It has vibration. Right pronunciation of the ending, d. Pronunciation of this verb in the past tense, stayed, stayed. And let's continue with the last rule. Rule number 3, final ed is pronounced id, after letter T or letter D. Okay. If you pay attention to these two examples, final sounds are letter D or letter T, right? Wait, final sound, letter T. Pronunciation of the ending, id. Pronunciation of the word of the verb in the past tense, waited. Last example, need. Final sound, letter D. Pronunciation of the ending, id. Pronunciation of the verb in the past tense, needed. So guys, these are basically the 3 pronunciations or the 3 possibilities that we have for verbs in the past tense. Okay, remember that these rules are only and exclusively for regular verbs in the past tense. Questions, guys? No. Is it clear? Yes?
Yes,
Yes,
it's
teacher.
clear.
Ok. Ok, chicos, yo sé que tiendo a ser muy sumamente específico con la explicación, ¿verdad? Pero prefiero ser pues sumamente claro y sumamente específico a que tal vez quede alguien que pues quede como en el aire, right? Con esta parte que no es difícil si se entiende, right? Pero al principio tiende a ser un poco confuso, especialmente si no se entiende la diferencia entre sonidos que vibran y no vibran. Recordemos que la clave para saber cómo se pronuncia la terminación ed en verbos regulares cuando está en pasado, la clave está en irse al último sonido de la base del verbo. ¿Okay? Cuando el verbo está en su forma simple, ¿cuál es el último sonido? Ese sonido es lo que nos dice todo. De ahí surgen las tres reglas. Vibra, ok, la pronunciación del ed suena así. No vibra ese último sonido de la base. La pronunciación de la terminación ed suena así. Es el último sonido de la base del verbo tod, que perfecto, la pronunciación de la terminación ed va a ser de esta forma. So basically the last sound is basically the sound that tells us the way we have to pronounce, okay? Regular verbs in the past tense. Okay, let's pay attention to this. Um, just give me a second, guys. Just a second. Perfect. Okay, well, we have here, guys, verbs. Okay, they are written in the past, right? Basically, we have to write. Okay, we have to write the past tense, right? The past tense. When not the past tense, we have to write the pronunciation of the end. Okay, the pronunciation of the end. So, for example, in the number one, cooked, the pronunciation of the ending is t, right? So we write letter T. Served, served, served. Okay, that's basically the pronunciation of this verb in the past tense. Wanted, id, wanted, wanted. Okay, that is the pronunciation of this verb in the past tense. What about this one, guys? Is it TD or IT? You can tell me TD or IT.
T.
Exactly. Yes. Just give me a second. Perfect. Yes, yes. Get this. Just give me a second because I need to check. Perfect. T, what about this one, guys? What do you think? Exactly. Started. Okay, started. Okay, started. This is basically a pronunciation of. I cannot use it. I cannot use the presentation. Okay, we're gonna use the book. Okay, because anyways, this is in the book. Okay. Second. It's better with the book. It's more practical. Okay, perfect. Okay. Number four asked. Exactly. Number five. What do you think about number five? Started, right? Someone said it. Perfect. Number six.
T.
T.
Exactly. Exactly. Right? Dropped. Number seven.
D.
Exactly. Pulled. 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 Number eight. Exactly. Pushed. 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 Number nine.
T.
Sorry. Okay, guys. Rule number three. Final ed is pronounced id after T or D sounds. Add the. So actually, in this case, final sound is letter D, right? So it means that the pronunciation of the name is id. So you say added, added. Next one, number 10. T, exactly. Past, past, past. What about number 11? What was that? Sorry? T or D? D. D, exactly. Returned, returned, returned. Read next one.
T.
Exactly. Touched, touched, touched. Next one. Right? Wait. Sorry. Waved, waved, waved. Next one, 14. ID, exactly, ID. Pointed, pointed, pointed. Number 15.
D.
Exactly. Read. Read. Just for you to know, final sound, letter K. Letter K. Final sound, letter V. Final sound, letter T. Final sound, letter K. Final sound T. Final sound, letter P. Final sound, letter L. Final sound, SH. Final sound, letter D. Final sound, letter S. Final sound, letter N. Final sound, CH. Final sound, letter V. Final sound, letter T. And final sound, um, letter E. So we say cooked, served, wanted, asked, started, dropped, pulled, pushed, added, passed, returned, touched, waved, pointed, agreed. Questions? No questions. Is it clear?
Teacher,
Yes.
it will be good to practice according to the rules.
What was it?
It will be good to practice according to the rules.
Yes, which rules? The rules that I was explaining.
Yes,
Yes, but that's basically like what we're doing, like practicing according to the rules. I don't know what you mean.
fine, thanks.
It's okay. It's okay. Great. So guys, questions? No questions. It's clear. Okay, let's continue with this part. Let's continue with this part, okay? So guys, number one. TD or IT? Okay, TD or IT. You can tell me TD or IT.
D.
Exactly. Great. Next one.
D.
D, right? Sailed.
Yes, D.
Sailed. Exactly. Next one. Fix.
T.
Letter X. Letter X is final sound. It doesn't look great. Fixed. Next one. T. Exactly. Guessed. 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 Next one.
D.
Right. Next one. Identify. Final sound I. Fied. Right? Fied. Next one. Exactly. IT. Perfect. Next one.
D.
Next one. D or D? D. Right, exactly. Next one.
ID.
Exactly. Exactly. Next one.
D.
Okay, let's see. Shap. Final sound. Letter P. It doesn't have a great. Say chapped. 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 Next one. W. Slow. It vibrates. Slow. Next one.
D.
Exactly. Turned. Perfect. Next one. Fry. E.
E.
Fried. Exactly. Next one. Exactly. T. Perfect. T. Is it rest? Rest.
ID.
Exactly. Next one.
D. D.
Exactly. Next one.
ID.
Uh-huh. Next one.
ID.
Okay. ID. Exactly. Perfect. Next one.
T. T.
Perfect. Next one.
D.
Excellent. Great. Uh-huh. So very quickly, we see cried, sailed, fixed, guessed, followed, identified, invited, passed, joined, protected, shopped, slowed, turned, fried, dressed, hunted, agreed, competed, tolerated, baked, peeled. Okay, guys. So we're gonna work on this. This is basically a comparison between simple present and present tense. Okay, simple present tense. So what do you think? Number one, usually Natalie and Chantal in the park. Okay, it says usually, right? Something that happens every day. Well, not every day, but frequently. So is it play or airplane in the park? Natalie and Chantal are playing or play? Okay, play, right? But it says that today, they, but today, so the action is happening right now. So today they are studying. Okay, they're studying. They're studying. The teacher is giving them an exam. So usually Natalie and Chantal play in the park, but today means uh, refers to an expression about something that is, let's say, happening right now. So we can say that today they're studying at a school and the teacher is giving them an exam. Number two, Kathy always is smiling or smiles in class.
Smile.
Smiles. Simple present, remember? Smiles. The action is not necessarily happening right now. She always smiles, but she's not smiling right now. It says, but at the moment, right now, some of the pupils as well
Smile.
are smiling. Reciprocity, right? Because it says, but at the moment. So this specific expression at the moment refers refers to um refers to something that is happening. Okay, refers to something that is happening right now. Okay, refers to something that is happening at this moment. But at the moment, some of the pupils are smiling as well. Number three, right now. Okay, right now, the pupils read or are reading. Are reading. Are reading. Exactly. Are reading a book and the teacher. So everything is happening right now. The whole action is happening right now. Right now, the pupils are reading a book and the teacher is writing on the board. Okay. So number 4. Almost every day, the class is beginning or begins.
Begins.
Begins at 8, but on Tuesdays, the class, but on Tuesdays, the class starts or it is starting. Starts, excellent. Starts at 8:30. She to bake cakes. I'm sorry, cookies. She. What do you think? Simple present, present tense. This case. She likes or she's liking. Okay. She likes. The action is not necessarily happening right now. She likes to bake cookies, but at the moment, okay, at the moment, she cookies because but at the moment, the expression at the moment means something that is happening right now. Right now, or at the moment, she is not baking. It's not baking cookies because she is studying. Right? Because she is studying. So she likes to bake cookies, but at the moment she is not baking cookies because she is studying at a school. Number 6, Danny climbing mountains during his vacations. So we are not talking about an action that is happening right now necessarily. It's an action that happens at the present. He enjoys climbing mountains during his vacation, but the action is not necessarily happening right now. So we use simple present. Danny enjoys climbing mountains during his vacations, but this year he. Okay, guys, if you pay attention to this example, to this specific sentence that we have here, we can use in this example that I am highlighting. In this specific idea, we can use present progressive as a close future action. Pay attention. But this year he any vacation, right? So we can talk about a plan that he has or a plan that he doesn't have. But we can talk about a close future action in a positive way or in a negative way, but we can talk about a close future action. But this year he is not taking any vacation because he is studying English. Okay, because he is studying English. So Danny enjoys climbing mountains during his vacations, but this year he is not taking any vacation because he is studying English. Number 7, Martin, computer exercises at the moment, right now, at the moment. What do you think? He's doing, right? He's doing. So Martin is doing computer exercises at the moment. She usually what, guys?
Does.
She usually does computer exercises on Tuesday. Number 8, Isabel is liking or like to read or likes to read.
Likes.
Excellent, likes to read. She a very good novel about candy.
Is reading.
We can use present progressive. Actually, the sentence doesn't say like right now, right away, but it makes sense. Makes sense, right? If we use present progressive, the sentence makes more sense. Pay attention. So Isabel likes to read. She's reading a very good novel of candy. Number 9, Suzanne from France, and she there for a holiday in the near The near future sounds like a close future action. So we can use present progressive as a close future action. But what about the first part? Suzanne is coming from France or it comes from France? Is coming sounds better. Is coming sounds like a close future action. Suzanne is coming from France and she is returning, right? Close future action. So Suzanne is coming from France and she is returning. Returning. He is returning there for a holiday. Um, for a holiday in the near future. Number 10, Cloud, to complete the online exercises at the moment. Okay, right now. Tries or is trying?
Is trying?
Is trying. So very quickly, just to check the answers. So usually Natalie and Chantal play in the park, usually, like almost every day, for example. But today they are studying at a school. The teacher is giving them an exam. Number 2, Kathy always smiles in class, right? It's an action that happens practically every day. Always smiles. She always smiles in class, but at the moment, right now, um, at the moment, some of the pupils or some of the students are smiling as well because it says at the moment, right at the moment, but right now, at this moment, some of the pupils or some of the students are smiling as well. Number 3, right now, the students or the pupils are reading a book, right? Because it says right now. And the teacher, what is the teacher doing right now? The teacher is writing on the board. Number 4, almost every day is an action that happens every day, but not necessarily happening right now. Almost every day the class begins at 8, but on Tuesdays the class starts at 8:30. She likes to bake cookies, but at the moment she is not baking cookies because what is she doing right now? Because she's studying at school. Number 6, Danny enjoys climbing mountains during his vacation, but this year he is not taking any vacation because he is studying English. Number 7, Martin is doing computer exercises at the moment right now. She usually does computer exercises on Tuesday. Isabel likes to read, but she's reading a very good novel about candy. Number 9, Susanne is coming from France and she's returning there for a holiday in the near future. And number 10, Cloud is trying to complete the online exercise at the moment. Okay, so guys, pay attention to this part because this is new. Okay, I'm going to explain something that is new. So, guys, I need you to increase the level of attention in this specific part because this is new. Okay, this is gonna be a new topic, and it can be confusing. It can be confused with simple past tense if you don't pay attention to it and if you don't understand the differences between simple past and past progressive tense. Okay, the name of this new grammatical tense is past progressive tense. Okay, past progressive tense. When do we use past progressive? We use past progressive for actions in the past. Yes, but what is the difference between simple past tense and past progressive tense? Okay, when we use past progressive, we use actions in the past, but those actions took, right, took a more extensive period. Those actions took a more extensive period. Those actions took several seconds, several minutes, several days, several weeks. Those actions took several months, several years. Those actions didn't happen at a very specific moment. Okay, in the past progressive, we use actions that were happening that took a longer period, took a more extensive period. Okay, again, several months, several weeks, several minutes. For example, I was exercising in the morning. I was exercising in the morning. It is an action that started at 9 a.m. and it finished at 10:30 p.m., for example. Right? It was an action that was in progress. It was an action that was happening. It was an action that was occurring for a more extensive period, for a more extensive length, let's say. Or for example, in the morning, I was giving classes, right? The action didn't happen at a very specific moment. The action was happening during the morning for several minutes, for several hours. It was an action that was in progress. The action was happening for an extensive period. Okay, if I say I was taking classes at a different institute, for example, I was taking classes at a different institute. The action happened in the past, but the action was an action that was in progress for a more extensive period. Okay, the action was happening for several days, several months, several years. Okay, it was an action that took a more extensive time. Sorry, a more extensive period, let's say. So that's basically the function of past progressive. Okay, let's pay attention to the grammar and then we pay attention to the comparison between simple past tense and past progressive tense. Past progressive, positive sentences, the subject. Verb be in the past, was or were. Verb ing in the complement. Negative sentences, subject. Verb be in the past, was or were. Net. Verb ing in the complement. Yes or no questions. Verb be in the past, was or were. Subject, verb, ing in the complement. Information questions, interrogative pronoun at the very beginning of the question, was or were, subject, verb, ing in the complement. For example, they were working there. She was not working there. Positive sentence, negative sentence. Were they working there? Was she working there? Short questions. Okay, past progressive. Where were they working? Where was she working? Information questions in past progressive tense. Okay, guys, it's important to remember that we use ing at the end of the verb. Okay, we need to use ing at the end of the verb. Because as you can see, this ing means ando, endo, yendo, right? So it is important to use ing at the end of the verb every time we talk about progressive tenses. Any progressive tense, present progressive, past progressive, future progressive, future progressive, present progressive, any progressive tense has ing at the end of the verb. Just say for you to know. Now, look at this. It's clear, yes. Okay, guys, here we have a comparison. Simple past tense and past progressive tense. Guys, I need you to pay attention to this, okay? Because if you don't pay attention to this, I mean, you're gonna get confused with simple past tense, okay? Simple past tense and past progressive tense. If you pay attention to simple past tense and past progressive tense, we use actions in the past in both tenses. What is the difference? When we use simple past, we talk about an action that happened in the past at a very specific moment. At a very specific moment. For example, well, let's pay attention to the explanation. The simple past tense is used to talk about an activity or situation that began and ended at a particular time in the past. For example, yesterday. For example, last night. For example, 2 days ago. For example, in 1999. Okay, so in the simple past tense, we use actions that happened at a very particular time, at a very specific moment in the past. But when we use past progressive, it's important to pay attention to the past progressive tense, because in the past progressive, the action was an action that was in progress. The action was happening. The action was occurring. The action is an action that was happening for several minutes. The action is an action that was happening for several days. The action was happening for several months, for several years. So in the past progressive tense, we talk about an action, guys, that started in the past. Okay, the action started in the past. The action was happening, was happening, was happening. The action was in progress. The action was a progressive action. The action was happening, was happening, was happening. And the action finished in the past. But if you pay attention to the distance, it's not exactly the same distance in comparison to the simple past tense. So in the past progressive tense, the action started in the past. The action was happening, was happening, was happening, was happening, and the action ended, finished in the past. But the distance of the action is more extensive in comparison to the distance of the simple past tense. Okay, so Okay, look at this. Tom came to my house at 6:10 p.m. I was eating dinner. Okay, the action started here. I was eating dinner. I was eating dinner. I was eating dinner. The action was in progress. The action was in progress when Tom came. But suddenly Tom came. Tom came. Tom interrupt the action in the past participial tense. Um, I was sleeping when the telephone rang. Okay, I was sleeping. The action started here. I was sleeping. I was sleeping. I was sleeping. Okay, the action was a continuous action. The action was a progressive action. When the phone rang. When the phone rang, interrupted the progress of the other action. Se puede decir que en el pasado progresivo, right, se habla de una acción que estuvo pasando, venía ocurriendo, venía sucediendo, venía pasando. Y en la mayoría de los casos, esto sí no es necesario, pero en la mayoría de los casos se hace mención a una acción en pasado simple que cortó el progreso de la acción en pasado progresivo. De nuevo, en el pasado progresivo se habla de una acción que venía pasando, estaba ocurriendo, estaba pasando, y de pronto ocurre algo en el pasado, que es una acción en pasado simple, que interrumpe ese progreso de la acción en pasado progresivo. Right? If you pay attention to these two examples, this is basically what I was saying. For example, I was eating dinner. I was eating dinner. The action is an action that was in progress when Tom came. Tom came is an action in the simple past tense. Tom came is an action in the simple past tense. And this action in the simple past tense interrupted the progress of the action in the past progressive. I was sleeping when the phone rang. I was sleeping. I was sleeping is an action in the past, right? The action was happening. The action was happening. The action was happening when the phone rang. Okay, when the phone rang. But an action in the simple past interrupted the progress of this action in the past progressive form. So the past progressive expresses an activity that was in progress. The action was occurring. The action was happening at a point of time in the past or at the time of another action. For example, when Tom came. I'm going to write 3 examples. Okay, pay attention to this sentence that I wrote in the chat. I was explaining the class. It is an action in the past progressive. I was explaining the class. I was explaining the class when the meeting started. The meeting started is an action in the simple past tense. So we can say that the action in the simple past tense interrupted the progress of the past progressive action. Another example, the students were writing when the teacher gave the rules. Okay, the students were writing. It is an action that was happening. The students were writing. The students were writing. It is an action in the past, a progressive action in the past. The action was happening when the teacher gave the rules. When the teacher gave the rules. The teacher gave the rules is an action in the simple past tense, right? But this action in the simple past tense interrupted the progress of the action in the past progressive form. Last example, Costa Ricans were working okay. Costa Ricans were working when the pandemic started. Costa Ricans were working. Costa Ricans were working is an action in the past progressive. right? The action was happening in the past. The action was happening when the pandemic started. When the pandemic started, is an action in the simple past. And this action in the simple past interrupted the progress of the action in the past progressive. It's important to say that there is a difference between when and while. Okay, when and while. We normally use when to express actions in the simple past tense. Okay, we normally use when to talk about the action in the simple past tense, and we use while to talk about the action of the past progressive tense. Again, we use when to talk about the action in the simple past tense, and we normally use while to talk about the action in the past progressive tense. So let's pay attention to this. Okay, give me a second, guys. Okay, pay attention to this. Past progressive tense. Positive sentences, negative sentences, questions, and short answers. Positive sentences, guys, we use was for he, for she, I'm sorry, for I, for he, for she, and for it. And we use where for you, for they, for we. Okay, so we say, I was working, she was working, he was working, it was working, but I say you were working, we were working, they were working. Negative sentences, okay, we use wasn't for I, for he, for she, and for it, and we use weren't for you, for they, and for we. For example, I wasn't working, she wasn't working, he wasn't working, it wasn't working. You weren't working, we weren't working, they weren't working. Okay? In questions, we use was for I, for he, for she, and for it, and we use were for you, for we, and for they. For example, was he working? Was she working? Was he working? Was he working? Were you working? Were we working? Were they working? In the short answers, same thing. We use was for I, he, she, or it, and we use wasn't. Yes, for the same subjects, I, he, she, or it. Okay, but we use where. Sorry, for you, for they, for we, and weren't if the answer is negative. Same thing for you, for we, and for they. Okay, this is just for you to know. Okay, I don't know if you want to take a picture or something because I'm gonna stop sharing right now. Okay, guys, simple past tense and past progressive tense. Guys, this is important. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, this part. Guys, when we use past progressive and simple past tenses in the same idea, for example, I was eating dinner, this is past progressive. When Tom came, this is simple past. So we are combining simple past tense and past progressive tense, right? We have simple past and past progressive in the same idea. Same as this one. I was sleeping, this is past progressive tense. When the phone rang, okay? The phone rang is simple past tense. So we have a simple past tense idea and we have a past progressive tense idea in the same sentence. right? So how can we make the difference? How can we make the difference? Okay, guys, we normally use when for the action in the past tense, and we normally use while for the action in the past progressive form. Okay, for example, pay attention. When the phone rang, I was sleeping. When the phone rang, if you pay attention, I am using when for the action in the past. The telephone rang is an action in the past, and I am using when for the action in the past. Pay attention to the other example. The phone rang while I was sleeping. While I was sleeping is an action in the past progressive tense. And if you pay attention, I am using while for the action in the past progressive tense. So remember when for the action in the past tense and while for the action in the past progressive tense. In case we want to use simple past tense and past progressive in the same idea. Okay, simple past tense or past progressive tense. Number one. We were playing or we played.
Playing.
When we were exactly, we were playing volleyball with Mary. Okay, we have when. Okay, when you. I want to change the color, but I don't know which color to use. Okay, when what? When you. Okay, remember we use when for the action in the past, right? Not for the action in the past progressive. So when you called, right? When you called me. So we were playing volleyball with Mary when you called me. Number two, when the teacher. Okay, we have when. Space when. When the teacher. When the teacher was coming, was coming. Okay, remember that we use when for the action in the simple past. For example, when you call me. Okay, when you call me is an action in the past, right? And we are using when for the action in the past. But we use while for the action in the past progressive. In this case, we have when the teacher. So we have to use an action in the past. So when the teacher came, or when the teacher came in, they what? When the teacher came in, they were studying. Exactly, they were studying English. Number three, the baby, when the phone or when the telephone.
Was sleeping.
The baby was sleeping. When the telephone.
Is ringing.
Okay, but we have when. So when we use when, guys, we use past progressive. I'm sorry, we use simple past tense. Okay, simple past tense when we use when. Okay, so when the telephone, past tense of ring is ring. Okay, ring. So the baby was sleeping when the telephone rang. Number four. Okay, as is practically the same as while. What do we use with while? Remember, what do we use with while?
Or past progressive.
Okay, so what do we say here? Well, I. Past progressive. So, well, I.
Were walking.
Exactly when I was walking. While I was walking on the street of Holland, I. Past tense of meet, I met an old friend of mine. Number 5, my car keys. I was losing or I lost.
Lost.
What? I lost. So I was looking for my purse when
Teacher, what is the irregular form of drop?
it is regular. Drop is regular.
Regular.
Regular. So what is the past tense of drop? And tell me the pronunciation too.
Dropped.
Excellent. Dropped. Very good. The pronunciation too. Dropped. Uh-huh. When I dropped my credit card. Number 7, my uncle to the airport yesterday. So it happened at a very specific moment in the past. My uncle me to the airport yesterday. Took me or it was taking me to the airport?
Took.
Took me. Number 8, she. Okay. Pay attention because we have when and an action in the past. When she hurt her ankle. Can you see? So we normally use when to introduce actions in the past, and we normally use while to introduce actions in the past progressive form. In this case, we have the action in the simple past tense. When she hurt her ankle is an action in the past. So it means that we have to use past progressive at the very beginning. She was dancing, right? So she was dancing when she hurt her ankle. Number 8, it.
Were raining.
It was raining. It was raining heavily when I got up. Number 10. Okay, we have while here.
I was seeing.
Mm-hmm.
No, sewing.
Exactly. So the thief while he
Was getting.
exactly when he was getting. He was getting. So I'm gonna write some other examples, guys. We were playing volleyball with Mary when you called me. When the teacher came in, they were studying English. The baby was sleeping when the telephone rang. While I was walking on the streets of Holland, I met an old friend of mine. I lost my car keys. I was looking for my purse when I dropped my credit card. My uncle took me to the airport yesterday. She was dancing when she hurt her ankle. It was raining heavily when I got up. I saw the thief while he was getting into my neighbor's house. Okay, pay attention, guys. Just a second, because I have very quickly. Just give me a second, guys.